Tom Brady confirmed his retirement after 22 years. These are the most tortured segues possible. 22 years, 7 championship career. Who is the NHL's version of Tom Brady? And that's not to necessarily say the best NHL player of all time,
right?
But rather somebody who came into the league completely unheralded, and made an incredible career for himself.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of guys in hockey that fit that profile.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's something
Scouting in hockey sucks.
Yeah, well, I think, and I've been thinking about this. So, like, the reason why it happens in hockey a lot more than football is in hockey, there's an 18-year-old draft. In football, for the most part, you've got guys who have played college football for 4 years,
right?
And they're 22, so you have a much better idea coming into the league who's going to be a star and who isn't going to be a star, right? Yeah. So they take, there's 4 years of uncertainty that's taken right out of the equation in football. And I think that's why it happens a lot less in football and basketball, as opposed to hockey and baseball, where you see these guys come out of nowhere all the time. So anyways, that being said, there are quite a few guys. You have to take a look at a guy like Marty St. Louis, a guy who wasn't drafted, went through waivers, tried to catch on with several organizations, found a home in Tampa, like Tom Brady, started to take a lot better care of his body and that sort of thing, and then became an NHL superstar.
What little there was to take care of.
Exactly. Won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
I saw him one time when I was down in the bowels of what is now called the Amalie Arena. It wasn't that then. And his legs were ridiculous. Like I just could not believe how big his legs were.
That's the legend.
Yeah. So there's Marty St. Louis. There's any number of guys. I guess the guy I would go with is Nick Lidstrom.
Yeah.
I think a 4th round pick in probably the best draft that any team has ever had. When the Detroit Red Wings got Mike Sillinger, Dallas Drake, Nick Lidstrom, who else? They got a whole whack of guys, like Hall of Fame guys, Fedorov. Yeah. So anyways, so he was a lot lower in that draft than he actually would have been. And then he comes here and, he's the best defenseman for, the better part of 15 years, 20 years. Yeah. Like he's one of the greatest defensemen to ever play the game. Probably. Yeah, I'm going to say he's the best European-born player that's ever played. Yeah. And I don't think anybody was expecting that. Yeah. When Nick Lidstrom first came onto the scene, back in the 90s.
Yeah. So I want to mention 2 things. One, just because obviously, member of Montreal media, sort of, so to speak here. When Weber got traded to Montreal and then was being compared to Nick Lidstrom, hilarious. Wow. Funniest thing that I saw in my life.
People were doing that even then?
People were comparing. When he got traded, it was like, well, he's older, but he could be a Nick Lidstrom style defenseman.
Yeah, but see, what you're saying is they were saying he was Nick Lindstrom. They weren't saying he was Nick Lidstrom. They were saying some guy named Nick Lindstrom.
Who played Bantam AAA in the 90s. Before I mention who I think is mine, I've got a question for you. Do you think that the reason why hockey scouting, on top of the issue that you mentioned about a 22-year-old draft, do you think that part of the reason why hockey scouting is difficult is because skills are not necessarily as translatable into the NHL? Like, for example, the fact that we're seeing the Michigan-style goal all of a sudden in the NHL, but for a long time that was considered the white whale, was considered not something that was doable at NHL speeds. So somebody could have the best hands and the best shot and the best skating and still not be able to be an NHLer.
Well, it's hard to not be an NHL player when you've got the best hands, the best shot, and the best skating.
Some of these guys are dumb as a bag of bricks,
yeah,
though,
some
and then
of them are. Some
they
of them
don't know how to put
usually,
a pass, right?
Usually it's skating. Usually it's skating that keeps you out. That's the one that kind of, that's the one I think that separates the wheat from the chaff at the NHL level is you've got a lot of guys in the American League who could put up, 100-point seasons in the American League till the cows come home.
Right.
But they can't keep up at the NHL level, and they end up being the guys who come up for a little while, look pretty good, and then end up tailing off and end up back in the minors or in Europe or whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's skating is the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah. So my pick for this is honestly, it seems like the most obvious one is Pavel Datsyuk.
Yep.
And I just want to list off a few things from his career here. 2 Stanley Cups, 1 Gagarin Cup, 3 Selkies, 4 Lady Bings with crossover, which is incredible because, defenders tend to have to be kind of, dirtbags to make it work. So the fact that he can win a Selkie and a Lady Bing, I think is pretty impressive and would just piss off Cherry to no end. So we'll just move on from that. Nominated for the Hart.
Yep.
Olympic gold medal, albeit with an asterisk because it was with the Olympic athletes from Russia. So
Correct.
Not during the whatever. And he has a Gordie Howe hat trick in his career with the fight being against Corey Perry.
That's pretty ballsy.
I think so, especially because it was a young Corey Perry then, right?
Well, that's even worse.
Yeah, exactly. And he was a member of the best named line in hockey, in my opinion. 2 kids and an old goat, which that was the line with Zetterberg and Hull. Mm-hmm. So, and then going into some advanced stats for his 2007-2008 season, 3rd best Corsi for percentage in the NHL, 2nd best goals for percentage in the NHL, 3rd best expected goals for percentage in the NHL. Yeah, but I'm not pandering to you.
Okay,
we're pandering to a younger audience. Okay. The hipster crowd, right, with the glasses and the, me.
Okay.
2nd lowest shots against per 60 when he was on the ice in the NHL. 7th lowest scoring chance against per 60 on the NHL in the NHL. 20th best individual points per 60 in the NHL, and the best takeaways per 60 by almost 2 full takeaways over Louis Eriksson while he was in the NHL. And that's for the 2007-2008 campaign. The bottom line is that no matter what stat you look at, he was one of the top 10 in the NHL. That's amazing.
See, I didn't even buy any of your argument until you came up with the shots against, expected shots against something or other. And then it was like, yeah, you got me now.
It was 2nd lowest shots against per 60.
Right.
While he was on the ice.
Right.
So
who's first? Forget it. I don't care.
You don't care that much?
No, I don't.
Okay,
I just thought
point.
Maybe since you knew who was second, you'd know who was first.
Why would I take detailed notes?
Is this all time? This is
for 2007-2008.
Okay.
This is specifically for his Hart Vezina. Hart Vezina. Hart. I'm such a goalie guy.
He's so good. He was a Vezina candidate.
He was so good defensively that they just said, you know what? Chris Osgood, let's be honest with ourselves here. Let's be real.
Okay.
Yeah. This is for his 2007-2008 campaign.
Okay.
So
that Detroit draft that I was talking about, 1989.
Yeah.
So that I forgot about Bob Bugner and Vladimir Konstantinov in that draft.
Those guys were okay too.
That's the best draft any team's ever had.
Yeah, possibly.
And the funny thing about that draft in '89 was they were going to take Pavel Bure, but there were at the time, and their European scout Christer Rockstrom said, like it had to do something with the number of games he played in at the international level or the men's level.
Yeah.
And they thought he was one short. The NHL thought he was one short.
Right.
And Christer Rockstrom said, no, I know he's played enough games and I can prove it. And so they passed on picking him in whatever round. And then they were going to pick him in the next round. And Vancouver was picking a couple of picks before and took him.
Wow.
So Pavel Bure would have been part of that draft too.
Yeah. Would have made the best draft better.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so I think it was last week when we were talking about Vancouver's front office, and you were basically talking about the market inefficiency of the fact that they're of hiring women, of hiring visible minorities, and the fact that other people are not, and Europeans and other people are not necessarily dipping their toes into that pool as eagerly as Vancouver is. And so you're saying you're getting the best of the best.
Right. Right.
And I mean, if that doesn't describe Detroit's drafting through the 90s,
right,
in terms of Europe, in terms of Russia, specifically, then like I don't know what
well,
does.
Krister Rockstrom was a genius.
Yeah.
Is a genius.
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a good.
He didn't take a big hit in the head lately.
No, I don't think so. No.
Become much less of a genius.
Oh, I don't even think he's with Detroit anymore.
No, I don't think he is either.
Yeah. I think he's. I can't remember where he is right now. He's not with Dallas. I'm not sure. Anyways, I probably should know that. So
it's your podcast.
Yeah.